Decades had passed since you disappeared.
What is the game?
So I call it a run and gunner 3D platforming FPS. So you're racing through procedurally assembled levels. They're sort of handcrafted sectors that are put together procedurally to make a level. You're timed and you're trying to get to the end of the level as quickly as you can, as efficiently as you can, keeping your health up, keeping your resources up. And if you can do that really well, you top. We have some leaderboards to give you some sort of friendly competition with your friends. But there is a story behind it, and the story is that you're trapped inside this like matrix-like prison called the Icebox. So it's like you're inside like a virtual, computer system network. And there's even a backstory to that, where it's like your father designed it. You got kidnapped and put into this system when you were a kid, and you've been put in stasis for a number of decades. None of that. That's just backstory to the game. Where the game starts is that the game starts with you in solitary confinement, and you need to escape. You need to escape out of this thing by racing through these obstacles, these challenges, these levels, protected by these sentinels, and make your way to the central AI, take it out, and if you can take it out, you escape the icebox. And the reason why you sort of awoken, or the reason why the failsafe has gone off, is because this external hacker's detected a beacon, and the external hacker is this female narrator, this voice who helps you along the way. So yeah, so you're trapped inside this thing that you're trying to escape. The gameplay, or the game-to-game, the minute-to-minute thing is that you're just racing through these levels, doing it, trying to do it as quickly as you can, and if you can do it really well, you sort of get on top of the leaderboards, the global leaderboards. So in a way, it's one of these games where I sort of equate it, even though it's nothing like a game of golf, it's a lot like a game of golf, where you can play a course and you'll want to play that course again next week because you want to try and get better at it. You start learning the way the slope, falls. You start learning where the bunkers are, and you start getting better at playing the course. This is a bit like that as well, where you sort of, the first time you encounter a zone or an area, you're trying to work out where everyone is, where all the bad guys are, how to quickly get through it. Second time around, you go, oh, I might, I've recognised this, and the third time around, you're headshotting everyone, getting as much, loot as you can, and going through it feeling like a badass. So the idea is that you become a master at it, and by the time you're fighting the central AI at the end, you feel like the central AI is actually scared of you because you're trying to take it out rather than the opposite way around.
Okay. It sounds like a really cool idea. So you mentioned that it's procedurally generated. So in my mind, whenever I hear people talk about procedurally generated games or whatever, or procedurally generated dungeons, I immediately think, so the game, as you're moving down, on screen is one section, as you're moving down, the game was just putting together the game, other parts of it as you go. Is that basically what's happening in Icebox?
In mine, it's like, it uses, I like to call it like a recipe. So I've got this template or a recipe for each level, and I say it needs to have certain themed sectors at certain points in the level, and they need to be filled with certain things. And so what happens is the level gets created at the start. When you load up, the level gets created, the recipe gets created. It knows exactly it's going to put this block after this block, even though it hasn't loaded it into the world. That level has been generated, and it happens really quick the way I've designed it. And that was one of the things I was prototyping. I wanted instant loading. I didn't want you to have to wait around for. Because some procedural games, you sort of wait a minute and a half while it says generating world, please wait. I wanted mine to be like, bang, as soon as you press start, the world's there. And then as you go along, the blocks just get put in place. So it's the generation happens, or the level gets assembled at the start, and then the recipe's sort of created, and then after that, as you're progressing through checkpoints and hitting terminals and stuff like that, the next bit of the world loads up. So it's done. So to compare that to some procedural games, like some games actually procedurally generate the geometry. Like they'll make the terrain, or they'll make whatever. Mine doesn't do that. Mine just puts the sectors together based on certain conditions. It knows where entry points and exit points are, which way they can be assembled, where you can put bad guys, where you can put traps, where you can put loot. And I give it the sort of parameters at the start of a level. I say, okay, this level's going to have no bad guys, or this level's going to have X amount of bad guys, or based on the difficulty, it's going to have this much, and it uses all of those sort of those knobs, those twiddles, to lay out the track. And when you're doing the campaign, the main campaign, I've got a fixed seed, so no one can change it. And the reason for that is that everyone gets to compete on the same tracks. Yep. So when we're competing against each other on the leaderboards, everyone's going to be competing on the same track.
Yep.
Once you've completed the campaign, or actually once you finish the tutorial, you unlock a whole bunch of other quick games. You unlock these things I call them marathons, which I'll explain to you in a sec. And if you complete the campaign, you unlock a Game Plus mode. And when you do that, you can play the same campaign again, but now you can change the world seed for any level. So you actually got an infinite number of levels now. So level 1 was laid out a certain way, now it's going to be laid out completely differently. It's still following the same theme as level 1. You won't see any different weapons that you didn't see in the first time around, or you won't see bad guys or traps. But it's laid out in a completely different way, so you can play it. The marathons is something that came out of when I was prototyping. I can actually make the whole campaign, this whole 20-level campaign, I can put it back to back using the procedural generator. So there's actually no loading screens. You can play the whole thing from your prison cell to the central AI in one crack.
Oh, okay.
You can do it in a 25k level, 50, 75, 100k level. So you can be playing for an hour and a half, 2 hours without any loading screens, right from your prison cell all the way to the central AI, take it out and basically play the campaign in one sitting.
Phew. That was close.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week we're headed to PAX Australia, so we'll try to send a postcard. We're checking out the local indies, some big hardware news and the latest from the big names, and if you're lucky, we'll tell you all about them. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, and if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Also, if you want to support Player Attack, you can find us on Patreon and help us bring you the latest in gaming news, plus all these wonderful interviews and reviews from the world of video games. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.